My sister just gave birth, and I found out her baby's father was my therapist. I laughed and said, "So that's why our sessions got so weird." I stopped talking, filed a complaint, and sent my sister a baby shower gift with a note that read, "Thanks for the diagnosis." Later, my sister showed up screaming at my door. "You're just jealous I found love," Melanie screamed, tears spilling down her flushed face. "You slept with my therapist, Melanie," I said calmly, holding the door half-closed between us. "He wasn't your therapist anymore. You're overreacting." I stared at her, feeling the weight of months of betrayal tightening in my chest. "You don't even see it, do you?" It's still surreal when I think about how fast everything spiraled. I live in Denver, just a few blocks from City Park, a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and coffee shops on every corner. My apartment isn't fancy, but it's mine, and after a rough few years, it finally started to feel like home. My sister Melanie has always been the storm to my calm. Growing up, she was the one climbing onto the roof in the middle of thunderstorms while I sat inside reading. As adults, not much changed. I built a steady career editing medical journals from home. She hopped from job to job, relationship to relationship, always chasing the next big thing. After a brutal breakup and losing my job during the pandemic, I started therapy. I found Dr. Lucas Brennan through a local listing. He came highly recommended, mid-40s, soft voice, stylish office downtown. Our sessions were helpful at first. He was good at making me feel seen, understood. I found myself saying things I hadn't even admitted to myself yet, but after about 6 months, something shifted. He became distant, distracted. Some sessions, he seemed to be half listening. Other times, he'd offer strange comments about me needing to let people in more, that not everyone is out to hurt you. It wasn't bad enough to leave, but it was enough to make me wonder if I was wasting my time. Around that same time, Melanie went dark for a few months. Not unusual. She had a habit of disappearing when she was in the middle of a new romance or adventure. I figured she was living her best chaotic life somewhere. Then one afternoon, she texted me a blurry sonogram photo and a message. "Guess who's having a baby?" I called her immediately, congratulated her, and asked about the father. She laughed it off and said she'd tell me soon. I didn't press. Melanie liked her secrets. The baby shower came a month later. She rented out a small hall near Cherry Creek, the kind of place with bad lighting and folding chairs that smell faintly of bleach. It was classic Melanie. Balloons everywhere, cupcakes on every table, an awkward playlist blaring from a Bluetooth speaker. I showed up with a gift, a neutral yellow onesie and a Target gift card, prepared to make small talk, drop my gift, and leave early. That's when I saw him, Lucas, my ex-therapist. Standing next to Melanie, one hand casually resting on her very pregnant stomach, laughing with my parents like he'd been part of our family for years. My stomach dropped. My brain tried to make excuses. Maybe he had a twin, maybe I was hallucinating. But then Melanie turned, beaming, and said, "This is Lucas, the baby's father." I laughed. Not a normal laugh, a sharp, ugly bark that turned heads. I heard myself say, "So that's why our sessions got so weird." The whole room went quiet. Lucas paled. Melanie blinked, confused. My mother clutched her wine glass like she might need it as a weapon. I dropped my gift on the nearest table and left without another word. The next morning, after barely sleeping, I filed a complaint with the state licensing board. I laid it all out. His distraction, his inappropriate behavior, the conflict of interest. It wasn't just about me anymore. He wasn't supposed to start relationships with former patients, much less while he was still licensed. Then, because I'm petty and broken-hearted and angry all at once, I mailed Melanie another gift. A book called Understanding Narcissists, tucked neatly alongside a card that read, "Thanks for the diagnosis." I didn't expect her to take it well. 2 days later, there was furious banging at my door. I was sitting in sweatpants, drinking coffee, pretending to read when the pounding started. I froze. My first thought was to pretend I wasn't home, but I'm a terrible liar and my car was in the driveway. "Open up!" Melanie's voice screeched through the wood. When I finally cracked the door open, she immediately shoved her foot into the gap. "You're unbelievable," she shouted, her hair wild, her cheeks red. I leaned my shoulder against the door, keeping it half closed between us. "You slept with my therapist," I said quietly. "He wasn't your therapist anymore," she cried. "You're just bitter because you're alone and miserable." I stayed silent, watching her. Her eyes filled with tears. "You can't stand it when something good happens to me." It was like she truly believed it, like I was the villain here, not the grown man who manipulated both of us. "I hope he treats you better than he treated his ethics," I said finally. She flinched like I slapped her. Without another word, she turned and stormed down the stairs, her flip-flops slapping angrily against the concrete. I closed the door, locked it, and sat down on the floor, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. The next few weeks dragged by. My parents tried to mediate, calling me almost daily. "Can't you two just move on?" my mother pleaded. "Family is everything." I asked her if she would be so forgiving if it had been her therapist Melanie slept with. She didn't answer. I found a new therapist, a woman this time. Dr. Annika Voss. She was steady, practical, no nonsense. She didn't tell me what I wanted to hear, she told me what I needed to hear. Meanwhile, the licensing board reached out. They'd opened an investigation into Luca's. I wasn't the only one, 2 other women had come forward, sharing eerily similar stories. It was enough to trigger a formal hearing. Melanie didn't care. She posted glowing Instagram photos of her and Luca's, cradling her bump at sunset, hashtags like blessed and baby on board underneath. It was like watching someone you love walk into traffic while you stand helpless on the curb. When Harper was born, a perfect, chubby little girl, I found out from a Facebook post. No phone call, no announcement, no invitation. I cried for 2 hours in my kitchen, mourning the sister I used to have. And then, as if the universe couldn't let things stay quiet, the hammer finally dropped. The investigation against Luca's moved faster than I expected. Turns out the licensing board doesn't take kindly to therapists sleeping with former patients, especially when multiple complaints roll in. I didn't tell anyone about it, not my parents, not Melanie. I figured she'd find out soon enough. Sure enough, about a month after Harper was born, my phone buzzed nonstop one Friday afternoon. Missed call, mom missed call, dad 6 unread texts from Melanie. The first one was just, "What did you do? Then, you're sick. You're jealous. I hope you're happy." Apparently, Luca's lost his license. Word had gotten around fast, especially in their social circles. Melanie's perfect little dream crumbled almost overnight. She tried to defend him at first, posting a long Facebook status about second chances and people making mistakes, but it didn't stick. The whispers got louder. Friends distanced themselves. By the end of the month, Luca's was gone. Packed up, left the state, no forwarding address. He ghosted her completely, no child support, no promises, no contact. Just disappeared. I found out through mutual friends that Melanie had moved back in with my parents. With a newborn, no job, no partner, it hurts to hear even after everything. I didn't want her to be abandoned. I just wanted her to realize what kind of man she'd trusted. I tried to stay out of it. Really, I did. But one rainy Sunday afternoon, just as I was finishing folding laundry, there was a knock at my door. A soft, hesitant knock, not the angry pounding from last time. I peeked through the peephole and saw her, Melanie. Hair wet from the rain, hoodie clinging to her thin frame, eyes red and puffy. I hesitated. Every instinct told me to leave her out there, let her deal with the consequences of her choices. But I opened the door. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, shivering slightly. Finally, she mumbled, "Can I come in?" I nodded, stepping aside. She sat on the edge of my couch, clutching the hem of her hoodie like a security blanket. Neither of us spoke for a long minute. The only sounds were the rain against the windows and the low hum of the heater. Finally, she said, "You were right." Her voice cracked halfway through. She didn't look at me, just stared down at her hands, picking at a loose thread. I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself not to explode. "He told me we were special," she said quietly. "He said none of it mattered. That he loved me." I sat down across from her, folding my hands in my lap. "He said he'd take care of us, me and the baby." I watched her. She still didn't look up. "And then, when the board contacted him, he told me it was my fault, that I made him weak." Her shoulders shook once, violently. "And then he left." I felt something in my chest loosen, not forgiveness exactly, but something close. Grief maybe, grief for the sister I missed. Grief for the girl who had believed a man like that could ever save her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The words hung between us, fragile. I nodded. That's all I could do. I wasn't ready to say it's okay, because it wasn't. It might never be, but I could listen. She stayed for a few hours. We didn't talk much after that. I made her tea. She watched the rain. It was awkward and sad, but it was real. Before she left, she turned at the door and asked, "Do you think we'll ever be okay?" I didn't lie to her. "I don't know," I said, and that was the truth. After that night, things between Melanie and me stayed fragile. She texted once in a while, small, cautious messages. "Hey, Harper smiled today. Found a decent coffee place near Mom's." Nothing heavy. No apologies tucked between the lines. No expectations. I answered, but kept it short. Not to be cruel, but because I didn't know how much I had to give. Meanwhile, Mom made it her personal mission to glue us back together. She started inviting me over every Sunday under the flimsiest excuses, family dinners, that somehow always coincided with Melanie and Harper being there. At first, I refused. I told her I wasn't ready. That just because Lucas was gone didn't mean the damage disappeared with him. Mom sighed heavily and did the whole guilt trip routine about how life is short and family is all we have. The truth is, part of me missed them. Missed the noise, the messy love, even the fighting. So one Sunday, 3 months after Harper was born, I said yes. The house smelled like roast chicken and laundry detergent when I walked in. Harper was propped up in a bouncer in the living room, kicking her legs and cooing at the ceiling fan like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. I hadn't seen her since the blurry Facebook announcement. She was beautiful. Big brown eyes, a tuft of dark hair, the tiniest hands I'd ever seen. She looked nothing like Luca's. Thank God. Melanie hovered awkwardly in the kitchen, stirring a pot of mashed potatoes like her life depended on it. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw tightened when she noticed me standing there. For a long moment, we didn't move. Then Harper let out a shriek, half laugh, half wail, and Melanie glanced at me, embarrassed. "Do you want to hold her?" she asked, voice tight. I hesitated. My hands twitched at my sides. Finally, I walked over and scooped her up. Harper was warm and heavy and perfect. She blinked up at me, unimpressed, and gave a tiny hiccup. I laughed. For real this time. Not the bitter, broken laugh from the baby shower, a soft, disbelieving chuckle that felt like it belonged to someone else. Melanie let out a breath I didn't realize she'd been holding. Dinner was awkward. No one mentioned Lucas. No one mentioned therapy. We talked about the weather, TV shows, the fact that Harper hated peas but loved sweet potatoes. The kind of meaningless conversation that stitches broken things back together without anyone saying the word sorry out loud. It wasn't fixed. It wasn't even close. But it was something. After that, we settled into a tentative rhythm. I'd come by once a week to help with Harper so Melanie could shower, or nap, or just sit in silence without a baby attached to her. We didn't talk about the past. Not yet. But sometimes, late at night, she'd text me little fragments, confessions sent into the void. I think I knew deep down that he wasn't good. I just wanted someone to pick me. I'm scared I'll mess her up. I never knew what to say. I wasn't a therapist. I wasn't even a good sister most days. But I answered anyway because maybe being there was enough. Meanwhile, Lucas remained a ghost. No calls, no texts, no child support. Melanie hired a lawyer eventually, a friend of a friend who agreed to work cheap. But tracking him down was like chasing smoke. Last I heard, they thought he might have moved to Arizona or maybe New Mexico. Nobody knew for sure. Every time the subject came up, Melanie's face would shut down. She'd say, "I don't care," and change the topic. But I knew she cared. Of course she cared. She just couldn't afford to anymore. Life moved forward inch by inch. Melanie got a part-time job at a bookstore downtown. Mom and Dad watched Harper while she worked. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. A start. I kept going to therapy too. Dr. Voss helped me work through the guilt, the anger, the bone-deep exhaustion of loving someone who keeps breaking your heart and asking you to understand. I learned that forgiveness isn't a single decision. It's 1,000 tiny ones you make every day. Some days it came easier. Other days it felt impossible. One Thursday afternoon, Melanie invited me to Harper's 6-month checkup. I sat with her in the cramped pediatrician's office, watching Harper try to chew on the paper lining the exam table. After the doctor left, Melanie turned to me, face serious. "I know you don't trust me yet," she said. I opened my mouth to deny it, but she held up a hand. "It's okay," she said. "I don't trust me yet either." I swallowed hard. She looked down at Harper, tracing a finger over her tiny fist. "I'm trying to be better for her. For us," I believed her. Not completely, not blindly, but enough to stay, enough to keep trying. After the pediatrician visit, things between Melanie and me kept shifting, slowly, awkwardly, like two tectonic plates trying to find new ground. Some days were good. We laughed about stupid things, like Harper's obsession with chewing on remote controls, or how she'd scream bloody MRDER every time you dared to take a toy away. Other days, not so good. There were moments when I'd catch Melanie staring out the window, lost in thought, her mouth set in a hard line. Sometimes I'd say something innocent, a joke, a tease, and she'd snap without warning. A sharp comment, a slammed door, a defensive glare. I knew better than to push. She was grieving, too, in her own way, mourning the fantasy she'd built, the man she thought she had, the future she thought was guaranteed. Grieving makes people mean sometimes. I understand that now. One night, I stayed over to help after Harper spiked a fever. It was past midnight, Harper finally asleep in her crib, the house so quiet you could hear the old pipes creaking. I found Melanie sitting at the kitchen table, her head resting on folded arms. I poured us both a cup of tea without asking. We sat there in silence, sipping cheap peppermint tea out of chipped mugs. Out of nowhere, she said, "Do you think he ever loved me?" Her voice was so small, so raw, that I felt my throat tighten. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to lie, give her the comfort she was begging for, but I couldn't. "No," I said quietly. She nodded like she already knew but needed to hear it aloud anyway. Tears slid down her cheeks, silent and unchecked. She didn't wipe them away. I didn't reach out to her. I just sat there, letting her have the space to hurt without fixing it, without rushing to make it neat. Because that's the thing no one tells you. Some pain just needs witnesses, not solutions. As the months dragged on, Melanie started to rebuild her life, piece by fragile piece. She applied for financial aid, started taking online classes at the community college. She got a better job managing a local bookstore. She even made a few new friends, real ones this time, not the chaotic crowd she used to run with. I saw her struggle, saw her fall apart and put herself back together again, and slowly I started to see flashes of the sister I used to know. Not the reckless teenager who threw tantrums and chased disasters, but someone older, quieter, a little sadder, maybe, but stronger too. Meanwhile, Harper grew like a weed. First words, first steps. First time she called me auntie with a gummy grin. Each little milestone carved a space inside me I didn't even know was empty. Still, there were nights when old wounds surfaced, ugly and raw. One evening, after Harper had gone to bed and we were sharing a bottle of cheap wine in the backyard, Melanie asked, "Do you think I'm a bad person?" The question hung in the air between us, heavy and sharp. I stared at the string lights Dad had hung across the fence last summer, watching a moth beat itself against one of the bulbs. "No," I said finally, "but I think you made some bad choices." She let out a shaky laugh, wiping at her eyes. "That's fair." Neither of us said anything for a long time after that. We didn't have to. Some things don't need explanations. Some things just need time. Around Harper's first birthday, Mom tried to organize a big family party. I told Melanie I'd help set up balloons, cake, the whole circus. When I showed up, Melanie was pacing the living room, clutching her phone so tightly I thought it might crack. She looked up, eyes wild. "He's trying to contact me," she said. I blinked. "Who?" "Lucas." The name hit the air like a gunshot. She held out her phone. A text from an unknown number blinked on the screen. "I miss you. I want to see Harper." "We can figure this out." My stomach turned. "What are you going to do?" I asked carefully. Melanie's hands shook as she locked the phone and tossed it onto the couch like it burned her. "I'm not answering," she said. "I can't go back there." Pride and relief tangled painfully in my chest. She wasn't the same girl who had clung to him like a lifeline. She wasn't the same sister who had screamed at me on my doorstep, accusing me of jealousy. She had changed. She was still changing. We finished setting up for the party in silence. Streamers, cupcakes, little gold paper crowns for the kids. Later, after the guests had left and Harper was asleep, Melanie handed me the unopened bottle of wine we'd meant to serve. "I don't think I'm going to drink anymore," she said, smiling sheepishly. "Makes me miss things I shouldn't." I took the bottle from her without a word and tucked it into my bag. Some battles are fought in silence. Some victories, too. After that text from Lucas, Melanie went into full lockdown. She blocked the number, blocked every unknown caller, set her social media to private. She even got a second phone number just for work and friends she trusted. Still, I could see the anxiety simmering under her skin, the constant glances at the door, the way she flinched when her phone buzzed. "You need to protect yourself," I told her one night over Chinese takeout. "And Harper," "I know," she said. I don't want him near her, ever." It wasn't just fear talking. It was instinct, pure and sharp and primal. So she did what she hadn't done before, she fought back. She called her lawyer and filed for sole custody. She added Lucas's name to a list for a restraining order, citing the unethical relationship, the abandonment, the psychological harm. Turns out, when you lose your professional license over misconduct and then abandon a newborn child, judges don't look at you kindly. The restraining order was granted, full stop. No contact with Melanie. No contact with Harper. No visitation rights. Lucas never even showed up to contest it. Just like that, he was legally and permanently cut out of their lives. It could have ended there, but life had other plans. A few months later, Melanie's old friend Ellie, someone she hadn't talked to in years, sent her a Facebook message. "Saw your old boyfriend the other day," it said. "He's trying to get a job counseling teens at some rehab center in Scottsdale. Did you know?" Melanie showed me the message, her hands shaking with fury. "He can't be around vulnerable people again," she said. For the first time in a long time, I saw a spark in her eyes, not fear, not sadness, but pure, focused anger. The kind that doesn't destroy you, the kind that rebuilds you. We sat at my kitchen table that night, laptops open, digging, public records, old news articles, LinkedIn profiles. Melanie even found a parenting forum where people were warning others about predatory therapists. We compiled everything: the revoked license, the ethics violations, the restraining order, statements from other victims. We gathered screenshots, saved documents, and printed copies. It took a week to put it all together, a neat, devastating dossier. Melanie didn't want revenge in the movie sense, no screaming matches, no social media exposés. She wanted protection. So she sent the packet to the rehab center's HR department anonymously, with a simple note attached. "Are you aware of this man's history with vulnerable patients?" 3 days later, Lucas's profile vanished from their staff page. By the end of the week, the job offer was rescinded. He was out before he even had a chance to set foot in the building. When Melanie told me, sitting on the couch with Harper napping against her chest, she didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just looked tired, relieved. "I'm not proud of who I was back then," she said softly, "but I'm proud of this." And I was proud of her too, proud that she didn't let him rewrite the story. Proud that she chose Harper, chose herself, over the fantasy he dangled in front of her. For the first time in a long, long time, it felt like the balance had shifted. Not in a way that erased the past. Nothing ever does, but in a way that made moving forward possible. Now, when I visit their little apartment, Harper toddling around with sticky hands, Melanie half laughing, half crying at the chaos, it doesn't feel heavy anymore. It feels real. It feels earned. Melanie still has bad days. So do I. Sometimes we fight. Sometimes we remember all the ways we hurt each other. But mostly, we move forward. She's working toward her degree in social work now. I want to help people who feel stuck, who feel powerless, who feel like love is supposed to hurt. And me, I'm just happy to be part of her story again, messy, complicated, beautifully unfinished.